Hi everybody, Chris Ryder here, and today we're going to talk about how to take a horseshoe and do this to it. Where we're going to start at today is some of the different types of horseshoes that are out there on the market that you may come across as you start to get into this. One of the big differences on commonly found horseshoes are either steel or aluminum. You're going to want to stay away from aluminum. Aluminum has a very high tendency of breaking. We're interested in bending steel, not breaking aluminum. Another thing that you want to be aware of going into this right off the bat is new horseshoes versus used horseshoes. I get questions all the time about what do I think of bending used horseshoes. Personally, I don't do it. I think it's a terrible idea. I learned through experience the hard way that a lot of times used horseshoes will snap as soon as you go to put the pressure to them or open them slightly. What happens is from them being used and the horse hitting the ground, they get worn, creating thin spots, weak spots, and what is called work hardening. So from constant impact of the horse's hoof, it just keeps stomping, stomping, stomping. It gets a hard spot. That hard spot does not want to take a bend. As soon as the pressure gets applied to it, it just wants to snap. Now when a horseshoe snaps like that on you, it can be a very unpredictable thing, which can come across, cut your pants, cut your leg. It can get away from you, cause you some damage that you really don't want to be taking on. Another thing that you want to think about on a used horseshoe is where was that horse standing? What was it stepping in? And if you do end up getting a cut or a nick or a scrape, you've got the combination of rust and who knows what else is on that shoe. So something to be aware of. My personal recommendation is just go for something new. Now, within the horseshoes, there's going to be terms that you're going to come across. Some of the terminology is toe, heels. So when it's mounted on a horse's hoof, that's the toe of the horse's hoof. That's the heels. This particular shoe has what's called turned heels. So think of a high heel. It's raised up to change the way that the horse walks to accomplish a particular task. They look really cool when they're bent. They feel a little funky in the hand grabbing up on that, but we'll get into that a little bit later. To go along with heels, something else you may encounter is clips. Now this is called a toe clip because it's right on the center of the toe. You may also find the clips on the sides. When they mount this up on the horse's hoof, it's just an extra mounting point for that shoe to grab a hold of the hoof. So sometimes you'll have them on the sides, sometimes like this one, you'll have it on the toe. As you go to bend a shoe with clips, it's going to dig into your leg pretty badly. They also, here's one of this particular shoe that is bent. You can see the clip kind of reacts a little bit funny. This one looks pretty cool, but it doesn't necessarily make the prettiest end result, and they get in the way a little bit. More terminology that you're going to come across as you're looking on websites to order shoes is this particular shoe is known as a blank or unpunched. When they're talking about punch, they're talking about nail holes. So this one is unpunched, this one is punched. Nail holes. As you're going to bend a horseshoe, a punched shoe of the same size, same specifications, same manufacturer, everything else being the same, a punched shoe will bend with less resistance because as you're applying the bend to the shoe, the punch outs are going to collapse upon themselves, allowing for less material to actually be bent. So all these openings are just going to help you out in horseshoe land. Another term that you're going to hear is this particular shoe is a flat plate. It's just very flat bar stock. Okay, you can get a good look at that. Next shoe I'm going to hold up is called a regular. Now looking at this shoe, it's still relatively flat like the flat plate is, but we've got a few different features on the shoe. In addition to the punches for the nail holes, we also have what is known as a nail crease. Now, this particular shoe, being a regular, does not have a crease that goes the whole way around. It stops short of the heels and it stops short of the toe. It's just right where the nail holes are going to be is where your crease is. On a shoe that is known as a rim shoe, the crease goes the whole way around from heel up around the toe and back down to the heel. It's a rim shoe. This particular shoe is a target point for starting out. This is a St. Croix Ultralight number 2. This shoe is what most people are going after when they're getting started out. There are a few shoes on the market out there if this is offering too much initial resistance. One of the type of shoes that you would want to look for is a harness shoe, which is very, very light, which would let you get the feel for the different moves with extremely low amounts of resistance. And a step about halfway between the harness shoe and the ultralight is the light steel training plates. With the light steel training plates, they look like an ultralight. They're very similar in the way that they're styled. This is actually a heavy training plate, which is another step in between the light training plate and the ultralight rim. I know it sounds a little bit confusing. A heavy training plate is lighter than an ultralight. It's just different classifications of shoe. So the absolute easiest that you would want to be looking for to get started is a harness shoe, and then we're looking at a thoroughbred light steel training plate, thoroughbred heavy steel training plate, and then the St. Croix Ultralight number 2. That is a good initial progression. Once you get to the ultralight, it's definitely time to either find a farrier and start looking around for yourself or getting yourself involved with a coach. I'm available. Anybody looking to take and get more in-depth one-on-one coaching that is interactive to help you achieve the goals that you are looking for, I am available with my Skype internet coaching program, as well as my Breakthrough Strength training workshops where I come to a gym near you. Another shoe that is out there that you may find, this is a few steps going above and beyond what the ultralights will offer, but it's something else that is pretty prevalent out there in the world of horseshoes. This is called a half round. This particular one is a 3/4 half round, so it's 3/4 of an inch and it's half round stock. So we're flat on one side and rounded on the other. Punch design, no nail crease, which is very typical for the half round shoes. The harness shoe would be similar to this, but about half of the thickness and the width. So the resistance would be very, very low compared to some of the other shoes that we just talked about. So let's look at what we're going to need to get started in horseshoe bending. What I highly recommend is a pair of suede wraps. These particular wraps are 5 inches across by 10 inches wide. I sell these for $10 a pair, shipped to the continental United States. If you're interested in getting bending wraps, send me a message at chris@coachchrisrider.com and we can get you set up with some quality suede to protect yourself as you're getting into your steel bending ventures. Steel bending is somewhat self-abusive, and we want to look at things initially as the body adapts and gets conditioned into the activity. We want to look at having some protection. Horseshoes get bent against the leg and over the leg, so that steel is going to be digging into the soft tissue of the leg. And if need be, we want to be able to have protection at the ready. Two different modes of protection that you can go with is, this is just a standard washcloth, where we would take the washcloth, fold it over, basically folding it in thirds. From there we would roll it up, create for ourselves a nice little leg pad. Once you have this, you can either take a rubber band it around so it stays together. What happens with putting a rubber band on eventually though is you're hitting it with a piece of steel. That rubber band is not going to take the abuse. So a better way is to tape it. Now, tape matters in what you're using. I don't recommend to go with something like an electrical tape or a duct tape. The reason being is the outside of that tape is very slick. What this is athletic tape. So it's cloth athletic tape, has a little bit of a texture. As we wrap this around to keep that pad nice and secure, when we go to put it on our leg, it's not going to slide down as easy, whereas duct tape or electrical tape would slip right off of the leg while going through the bend process. If a washcloth isn't offering you enough padding, you can go with something a little bit bigger, some kind of a tea towel, a hand towel. Instead of just rolling it up totally cylindrical, which will have a tendency of wanting to roll on your leg, what we can do is just take a little fold, maybe 1.5 to 2 inches, and then fold the pad up like that. And we can come back again and put some of our athletic tape on the pad, and we got a nice flat surface that'll rest on our leg, and we can anchor the horseshoe into. I'm going to run a couple demonstrations for you now with bending a couple of horseshoes. The particular horseshoes that I have that I'm going to demo with are 5/16 by 5/8 regular shoes. These are hind pattern shoes. The way that you can tell the difference between a hind pattern and a front pattern is a horse's hoof. The front hoofs are very round, very cylindrical in shape, and the back hoofs are diamond shaped. So if you look at this horseshoe, you can see it's got more of a diamond shape to it, as opposed to a front, which is very round. So there's the difference between a front and a hind. With setting up to do a horseshoe, it is dominant hand dependent. I am a right hand dominant person. I bend horseshoes right-handed. I do also from time to time bend left-handed just to maintain a sense of symmetry, but I was bending a lot of extremely heavy horseshoes, all one-sided, and I created an imbalance within myself. For getting started, I recommend just going with your dominant hand and not switching back and forth so you're not switching signals. I'm going to run through, I will do both bends though. I'll do a right-handed and then I will do a left-handed. So, right hand dominant means I am going to put the toe of the horseshoe to my right. It's going to be pointed toward my right as I'm looking at it. I'm going to take the wrap, and the wrap is going to come in to the halfway point over the heel, just like this. From my perspective, wrapping the horseshoe, all I see is wrap. I am not able to see the heel of this horseshoe. It's concealed by the wrap. The wrap then comes up, over, and around. When it comes around, it needs to be coming towards you. Up, over, around, towards you. Through, up, over, around, towards you. Just like that. And then motorcycle throttle it tight. There you go. One leg of the horseshoe is wrapped. From here, what we're going to do is rotate the shoe upward 180 degrees. The toe is still to the right. The unwrapped side is up. So this already wrapped side does not come undone. I'm just going to rest it back against my body. I'm going to bring the other wrap into the halfway point. I have now concealed the heel. Up, over, around, toward me. Up, over, around, toward me. Up, over, around, toward me. Motorcycle throttle. Now we're just going to crank on both of these until they're tight. Just like that. Right hand dominant. Toe to the right. Right hand. Palm down. Bottom leg of the horseshoe. Non-dominant hand. Palm down. Top of the horseshoe. Stacked like that. What I'm going to do is run through the wrap one more time for everybody. I'm going to come behind the camera so that you can see this as what you would be looking at. So here is the horseshoe. The toe, this is my right hand. My right hand, toe is to the right. I'm coming into the halfway point of the wrap. The heel is concealed. Up, over, around, toward, through. Up, over, around, up, over, around, just like that. And then motorcycle throttle to get that on. Now, because I was so extended, I wasn't able to rest this to wrap the other side of the horseshoe while I was doing that demo. But it is just a rotate 180 degrees and repeat just like I'm doing now. And again, we wrap it up tight. Dominant hand is on the bottom, non-dominant hand is on top. I'm going to move the camera. Just like that. So now, what we want to do with the shoe wrapped and the shoe in the position, dominant hand on the bottom, palm facing the ground, non-dominant on top, palm facing the ground, toe facing the dominant side. We're going to get into a split stance, almost a lunge stance, but we're going to have our front foot forward, our back foot pointed toward our dominant direction. Dominant leg is back. A right hand shoe bend is actually going to get butted up against the left leg. Okay? Just like that. Now we don't want the shoe coming straight in. We want the shoe to be at an angle like this. That's going to allow us to apply the pressures in the proper planes. Like this, you're not going to be able to put the appropriate pressures on. It'll have a high tendency of spinning out of your grip that way. The target that you're looking for is between the quadricep and the hamstring. If you look down the seam of your pants, jeans, these are BDUs, I've got the same seam. What we're looking to do is anchor that right behind that seam at that angle. So from here, I'm squeezing really, really tight with my right. My right forearm is laying across the crease on the left side of my hip. I have a 3-finger grip. My index finger is just catching, barely catching the heel of the horseshoe. Same thing with the left. I've got a 3-finger grip and my pinky is just catching the heel of the horseshoe. So the wrap is extending over the end. I put it in. I squeeze very, very tight. This is a critical point. You cannot allow the horseshoe to spin in your dominant hand. You're actually not so much using your dominant hand to bend the shoe as you are using it as a vise to prevent it from slipping. The non-dominant hand is going to do the bend, and what we're going to do is just squeeze really tight, take a big breath, and push down. And pull the horseshoe right open, just like that. Now, the second position that we're going to do is we're going to change into a lunge stance. Again, the non-dominant leg is forward, and we are looking for a point near the hip joint to put the center of the toe of this horseshoe, but we're going to put it in this plane. That way we can push down evenly. My hands are not offset with my non-dominant closer to my knee. My hands are evenly across. So the shoe itself is at an angle. So my hands can stay right across from each other. We're looking for a point on that lead leg. So the burn is running right down the center. We want to be slightly to the outside, catching that burn and into the meat. From here, we can use the pad. If the pressure is debilitating until you get accustomed to working with the shoe, remember this when you're going to use one of the pads. It should lay just like the burn in your leg. You don't want the pad resting like a T. You want it running in the same direction. Just like that. If you have it this way and try to put it on, this pad is going to get in your way of your hands trying to push down. So we want to have it just like this. Okay? So the second move, we squeeze really tight. We lean over our hands, keeping our center of gravity right over the backs of our hands, near our thumbs. Big air and a big drive down. Just like that. And we'll just take that horseshoe right around. As far as this tutorial goes, this is all the further that we're interested in going. There are more moves that you can do as you advance through horseshoe bending. One of the moves that I like to go to is a move that I call the paperclip. This particular shoe is a 3/8 by 1 number 5 draft. I just like the way it looks. Kind of looks maybe a little bit like a bow tie or a paperclip. We're going to look at one more shoe bend here. We're going to look at a left hand dominant. So with left hand dominant, the toe of the shoe is going to be pointed to the dominant hand. Left hand, toe points left. Going to take our suede. Same thing. We're going to find the halfway point in the suede to the top leg. As you're looking at the shoe, you should only see suede. You should be not seeing the heel. And it comes up, over, around towards you. Up, over, around towards you. This all remains the same. Torques up. We flip the shoe 180 degrees so we can get to the other heel. Rest it back against the body. Repeat the process. Tighten it up. With this particular shoe, it's not as vital, but what I do like to do is facing away from me is the part of the shoe that's going to contact the ground. When we look over at, let's say, this ultralight, or better yet, let's look at this half round. Look at the curve, that nice swooping curve that is on that portion of the shoe that's going to contact the ground. If we look at the anatomy and the structure of the hand, the palm of the hand is very flat. The fingers will curve in. We want to put the curve of the shoe to the curve of the finger, the flat of the shoe to the flat of the hand. We want to lock in like that. Just like that. Okay, left hand shoe bend. Everything's tightened up. Dominant hand is on the bottom heel. Palm facing down. Non-dominant hand is on top. Palm facing down. Toe of the horseshoe is pointing in the direction of the non-dominant hand, which this is the left. So toe of the shoe points left, left hand on bottom. As we go to get into the position, we get into our split stance. Front leg, toe points forward, back leg, toe points in the direction of the dominant hand. Horseshoe comes just behind the crease on the pants. Tight squeeze. Dominant hand forearm is laying across the dominant side hip crease. Big tight squeeze. Non-dominant hand drives down. Just like that. Opens the shoe right up. Feet transition to more of both feet facing forward. We find the spot that feels best on the shoe. We don't want one hand way out. See how imbalanced they are, how far forward, how much closer to the knee that hand is. We don't want that. We want to be right about here. If you want to grab a pad, put the pad on your leg, right where it needs to be. We're going to take a deep breath in, squeeze real tight, bring our center of gravity over our hands, and just drive right down. Just like that. There you have it. Left hand shoe bend, right hand shoe bend. Once more, my name is Chris Ryder. They call me Hairculese. Anyone who is looking to advance in the feats of strength may send me a message to chris@coachchrisryder.com. I am interviewing for students for my Skype video coaching program where we can advance upon these techniques, or you can have an interactive coach guiding you through these techniques as opposed to a blanket instructional where you can get live feedback. I'm also available for my Breakthrough Strength training workshop where I can come out to a gym near you. Gym owners, if you have interest in that, once again, Chris@coachchrisryder.com. Thanks everybody. This has been Horseshoe Bending.